Thanks so much for watching today's video. Today we are going to be building a DIY vintage inspired bench, and I'm going to start off by showing you all of the wood that we used to create this, and I'll also put everything in the description box as well so you can just easily reference it for the future if you want to do a project like this. But I'm just going to take you step by step on exactly everything we did to create this bench, because I personally find on like Pinterest and things that there just isn't enough details to actually make the bench. So we're going to be really in depth here, and again, everything will be in the description box. But the first thing that we're doing is we're cutting the legs to be 20 inches long and at a 10-degree angle. So that's just going to give you the perfect look for a bench. The legs are going to be the right width away apart, and then they're not going to be too tall or too short.
And your arms are cold. It's funny how easily a life can be.
And you're probably wondering, who is this man that is helping me? That is my dad, and that was his dog. My dad is really handy and has always been somebody to help me when I have these projects that I want to do. So of course he's helping me out today. And what he just cut there was actually 2 pieces of wood that we're attaching the legs to before we attach it to the seat of the bench. So you really just want to cut these depending on how wide your bench top is. So you just want about 1.5 inches of space between it, just to give you that kind of right look. So that's all they're doing there, and then kind of figuring out exactly where the centers are of the legs and then that little piece of wood, so that everything is nice and centered. Now they're going to just drill the pilot holes into the leg, so it's obviously just easier to screw in there.
In your arms of gold, I rise from the ashes with pins and...
A lot of the designs I looked up on Pinterest were going to be using like a pocket hole jig for like pretty much any bench you wanted to build. They said you needed a pocket hole jig, and my dad did have one, but we were just as successful just using the pilot holes and drilling in the screws like at an angle. So you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money on a pocket hole jig if you don't have one.
Like getting blood out of the stone on my own, but you came around and removed the thorn in my soul. You guided me out.
Now my dad is just cutting this smaller piece of wood to kind of add some support to the legs in between, just to make sure they're not wobbly or anything. This part was actually pretty simple. He just kind of lined it up where he wanted it and then just traced on the edges to just easily cut against that line.
Patches, we carry on. I rise from the ashes. I heal from your passion. My doubts are
And here, since this is the underneath part of the bench, you're not going to be able to see the screws, but he's just going to do a diagonal screw right into the leg of the bench here for that added support.
it's so classic. Every time you make me nervous and I lose my words. It's been a while since I forgot the most simple words. I feel calm when you're around, like nothing can break me.
And now I'm just going to speed this part up because they're just doing the exact same thing for the other set of legs on the other side of the bench. Since it's just been my husband and my dad so far in the video, I just want to say how thankful I am that I have these 2 men to help me out with my ideas and making my projects come to life. But I am going to be in here soon. I do something with this bench, so don't worry. My job is really going to be the distressing and the staining later on, so a little bit more of the creative side is going to be me, but I'm very happy that they were able to help me with actually constructing the bench.
Cross the line. I feel calm when you're around, like nothing can break me. Yeah, yeah.
So now here I am. I'm going to be just distressing the wood. I really wanted that vintage and aged look for this. So totally hindsight is 2020. This would have been a lot easier if I would have distressed the wood before they actually put together the legs. But luckily we realized this before we put the legs on the top. So, you know, it's not that bad. But I'm just basically hitting it with a hammer. That's just how I'm getting this aged look, is I'm taking off the squareness of the edges by hitting them with this hammer. And if you have more materials, like if you have more different metal objects, that could work too. But I really just found that I was able to get the look I wanted with just the hammer. So it was really easy. I mean, obviously you're just hitting some wood, so no pressure. This is definitely the fun part. And you just get to kind of work with it as you go and see, you know, which areas need more distressing, and just go from there. It's really simple.
It's scary sometimes, but I know we're safe. Two peas in a pod, a roller coaster to walk out the door. We could be in control, but we just keep on putting on a show. And baby, I don't mind it.
Hey guys, Travis here. Just beat the ever-loving crap out of it, really. That's all you gotta do. Just swing as hard as you can. Who needs marriage counseling?
The wood that we're using is pine, so it's really soft, so I did take some chunks out of it when I was hitting it, but you know, it's all part of the look, so you really can't make mistakes when you're doing this because you just want it to look naturally aged anyway. And also, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this on the grass. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I did get grass stains on the wood when I was like hitting the side that was laying on the grass with the hammer, which honestly, it's fine. The stain kind of covered it up, but as you can see with the close-ups here, we have like the divots happening, and the edges really give it that most distressed look, so I'm trying to like focus my distressing there.
You give me this energy. It is like you set me free. Chasing highs to stay alive. But if I'm with you, I'll survive. So hold me close into the night, 'cause I need you to stay. You take me to paradise, that's why it's hard to wait.
And I'm bringing in the husband for reinforcements. He definitely is a little bit stronger than me, just a little bit, but he's going to be hammering in some of the edges here, and as you can see, he's getting a lot more done than I was, so very thankful that he was able to step in here and kind of help me out with that too. And also it gives it a little bit of variation too between his like marks and then mine, so that's kind of nice too. While they were working on connecting the legs to the top of the bench that we finished distressing, I was taking the piece of wood that we're using for the accent that connects the legs over to distress that as well. Just going to be using the same process, so I figured I would just leave that out and not make it too repetitive, and just will show how they are going to be attaching the legs. So they're using that same process where they're just drilling the pilot holes at an angle, and then they're just gonna screw the legs into the top. So really easy, really simple. Also, I wanted to mention that we chose to put the legs 6 inches away from the end, so I thought that was a pretty good length away given the length of the actual bench is about 6 feet. So if it was shorter, you could definitely do the legs closer to the ends. So after I finished finish distressing that accent piece, we're going to measure where exactly we want that to fall. So we said we wanted the top of it to be at 13 inches. So we're just marking each of those on the sides of the bench.
Just for motivation.
So after you line it up according to the lines that you made, you can just make marks on the back of it and then cut it with your saw right along those lines. To be honest, I thought that this part was going to be the most challenging for some reason, and it was actually super simple. So don't be intimidated, because I do think that adding this little accent piece just makes the bench look so much more authentic, and it just gives it more of that classic and traditional vibe. So I would highly recommend just going ahead and taking care of that. And to attach it, pilot holes at an angle, you know the deal. So we're just going to drill those really quick, and then upside down, so you make sure that it's not visible from the top of the bench, and you're good to go.
That's how we stay alive. At least we try to survive. We're not the ones who hide. Two different minds.
I felt like I needed to add a little more distressing to the top, so just with finding what you have and using it, I'm using this Sureform wood rasp to kind of add some like scratches to the top to just make it look a little bit more aged, and it was really easy. I believe what this is actually supposed to be used for is to smooth out the edges on the sides of the wood. So I did do that as well, just to give it a little bit more of a softer finish. And then this is the stain that we used in the color Weathered Oak.
Two different
With this particular color in the look I was going for, I just am applying the stain with a brush, and I'm not even absorbing any of it with a rag afterwards. I really just wanted the wood to soak up pretty much all of the stain, just so it gives the most amount of color. And I only went over this one time, so I did 2 coats on the legs actually, and then I only needed 1 coat on the top of the bench. So it ended up working really well, and it was really easy.
Thinking about the way that you know me. No one ever cared like you care for me. You're such a bright star in the dark space. Babe, it never worked out with the others. All we ever did was fight.
You can really see here, and when I start staining the top, how the stain really brings out the depth in the marks that I made with the hammer. And that's just the total look I was going for, was once the stain is on there, it's pretty light everywhere else, but it really does sit into those divots and makes them stand out a bit more.
My. You got me like my. You got me like there's no other than you now, babe. Nah, 'cause you got me like my. Like, oh my God, don't let anyone hold you down just because you are
I think this color turned out absolutely beautiful. It gives a perfect aged and distressed look. And now I'm going to bring it into our apartment and we're going to get to the styling. It just fills up this wall perfectly. It's such a good length for it and it's exactly what I needed here in my office. And so I have this bowl that I got from Target, from the Studio McGee and Threshold line, and then I'm just throwing over this blanket that I've had from TJ Maxx. And I think just something simple is all I wanted to do on this bench, just to make it really shine, and I just want to accent it. So I'm just going to play around with this, and then I do end up changing it the next day, which you'll see in these clips here. I added this plant that's actually from one of my previous DIY videos. If you're interested, check it out. I'll link it down below in my description box. And I also added this candle here, but again, just still really simple, and I'm just obsessed with how it turned out. It's definitely something I will keep for years to come. And if you like this video, please subscribe and give it a like, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!